My name is Skip Watts. I'm the 828 East Regional Rep for CFNC in the North Carolina 529 Plan. Today, we're going to be talking about the North Carolina College Savings Plan and how it can add value to your benefits plan. I'm here accompanied with several colleagues today, starting with my friend Tequila Barnes Hall. She is the 336 North Carolina 529 Regional Representative. Again, you can see my picture there. And we're also accompanied by my colleague, Gabby Anastasi. She's going to be handling the chat. She's going to be taking care of any tricky questions that you may pose that I cannot answer. Okay, so we're going to be talking about three major topics today. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about how a 529 plan works. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable as an employer offering this opportunity to your employees. We're going to be talking about what benefits are associated with adding the North Carolina 529 plan to your existing benefits package. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how you can set up a 529 group plan for your employees. Now, it is critical in this day and time that we show our employees that they matter, that they are important to our culture as an employer. So according to Glassdoor's 2015 Employment Confidence Survey, it stated about 60% of people reported that benefits and perks are a major factor in considering whether to accept a job. And we're in a really competitive market right now. And what I'm seeing is that oftentimes employees find a lot of value in employers who offer financial planning education, tuition and reimbursement opportunities, and basic money management tools. These are topics that aren't taught to us at the high school or at the university. So as an employer, we can bring a lot to our employees' quality of life by offering these opportunities within the employment setting. So how does the North Carolina 529 plan work, and what exactly is a 529? Well, a 529 plan is simply a college savings plan that every state in America has within their state administration. Federal law allows states to develop qualified tuition programs with tax advantages to help their families save for college. 529, it simply refers to the section of the Internal Revenue Code creating these programs, okay? So it's just simply a section name. And every 529 plan enables participants to qualify for federal tax benefits. And in North Carolina, our North Carolina 529 plan can qualify employees for state tax benefits as well. So in North Carolina, people that take advantage of the 529 plan not only have tax benefits at the federal level, but they may also have some at the state level as well. And that's really important to remember. Now, as far as the North Carolina 529 plan goes, it was authorized by the North Carolina General Assembly back in 1996. It's established and maintained by the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority, otherwise known as NCSEAA, and currently it's administered by the College Foundation Incorporated. Now, you may be asking, why should my employees start a 529 plan? Isn't it their responsibility to think about saving for their own students' college experience? Well, yes, it is, but it's important as an employer to initiate that college savings early because most families will pay for at least a portion of their children's college expenses. It's much easier to do when a family plans ahead, and an employer can really assist in that by offering a 529 as a benefit. And then a 529 college savings plan can get your employees started on their share of future expenses earlier as opposed to later. The earlier we can get our employees to start thinking about future college expenses, the more flexibility they will have down the road to help pay for their students' education. Now, there's 6 primary ways to use North Carolina 529 plan. You can obviously, or your employees rather, can use that 529 plan for college expenses, and that could include tuition, books, fees, room and board, and maybe even a computer or more. 529 funds in North Carolina can also be used for trade school expenses as long as they are eligible for federal student aid. 529 plans in North Carolina can be used for apprenticeship programs. They can be used for K-12 tuition expenses up to $10,000 of that academic year. They can be used for special needs equipment and student loan payments on the behalf of the 529 beneficiary up to $10,000 per individual. That's a new part of the 529, and it's something that, again, I want to reiterate. 529 funds can be used to pay back student loans up to $10,000 per individual. Now, North Carolina's 529 plan is open to residents of any state, but again, there are tax benefits for North Carolinians who invest in the North Carolina 529 plan. Employees can enroll directly through CFI, which means there's no fees or sales charges for enrolling. The program is accessible, it's affordable, it's got those tax-free earnings on contributions that I alluded to earlier. The program is extremely flexible and comprehensive as well. Now, when I say it's accessible, any adult can open up an account to help anyone who plans to pay for college, regardless of the beneficiary's age or relationship. So for example, I could open up a 529 plan for my son, obviously. I could also open up a 529 plan for my nephew, or if I was so inclined, I could even open up a 529 account for my neighbor's children across the street. So it is extremely accessible. And an individual can even open up a 529 account for himself or herself. And when I was in graduate school, I actually saw several cost-minded members of my cohort that actually open up 529 plans for themselves to pay for their graduate experience. So again, keep that in mind. It is extremely accessible. Now, the program's also affordable. There's no enrollment fee. You can go with minimum contributions as low as $25. I should say, though, $25 contributions aren't going to help a whole lot with the cost of education these days, but there are low minimum contributions with our 529 plan. There's low total annual asset-based fees. They range from 0.25% to 0.39%. There's no extra fees unless you request special services like courier delivery or receiving paper communication as opposed to electronic. And you can contribute when and how you want. You can contribute on occasion or regularly. You can put in a lump sum, or you can go with an automatic draft. We want to make sure it's affordable, accessible, and flexible. Now, when I say lump sum contributions, I'm referring to a personal check, maybe an EFT, possibly money orders, or it could include a transfer or a rollover from another 529, maybe a 529 out of state, or another student's 529. It could also be a rollover of a Coverdale Education Savings Account or a Qualified Education Savings Bond, a Series E, or I issued after 1989. Now, automatic contributions can be a recurring account draft. It could happen once or twice per month on the dates your employees select. Payroll deduction for some employers also. Employer can set up a payroll deduction with the 529 plan and transmit employee contributions. And employees must have a payroll deduction authorization agreement on file with the North Carolina 529 before we can move forward with that process. Now, all these earnings are tax-free. They're tax-free at the federal and at the North Carolina level. That includes income taxes when used to pay for qualified higher education expenses. Out-of-state residents pay no federal income taxes on account earnings used for qualified higher education expenses, but should check with the tax advisor regarding state taxes. Now, this program is also extremely flexible. As far as savings go, it can be used for the beneficiary's college costs at virtually any eligible institution anywhere. You can change future contributions at any time. You can reallocate current funds twice each calendar year. And like I said earlier, you can now use 529 funds to pay back a portion of your student loans. And you can also use it for apprenticeship programs in North Carolina. Now, as far as K-12 tuition goes, this is a new part of 529. So let's talk about the K through 12 tuition program as well. Beginning back in 2018, North Carolina 529 participants who made qualified withdrawals to pay for tuition enrollment or attendance in an elementary, middle, or high school, or in a religious setting, they can do that now. This is in accordance with the federal tax bill that was passed in December 2017. And students can take up to $10,000 per beneficiary per calendar year to pay for those qualified education expenses at the K through 12 level. Now, I also mentioned several times already that North Carolina 529 funds can be used for trade schools. Okay, so keep in mind that students don't have to follow the traditional four-year college path to take advantage of a 529. So your employees can benefit both if their students are going to a four-year institution, a community college, or a trade school. It can also be used, 529 funds can also be used for private universities and graduate school. And increasingly, many of our employee students are pursuing graduate programs after they complete that bachelor's degree. So it's important just to keep in mind how flexible these 529 funds can be used within the education setting. Now, according to the Secure Act, which was initiated back in 2019, student loan payments can be paid with 529 accounts. Again, I mentioned earlier that there are some limitations. The limit for a student is up to about $10,000 for the beneficiary or a beneficiary sibling. So you can again spend $10,000 from your 529 funds on a student's student loan repayment. But again, there are limitations. You can use that funding for the beneficiary and again for their siblings, but just bear in mind if you're ever advising an employee that there are those limitations of $10,000. Now, again, the Secure Act also allows 529 funds to be used for apprenticeship programs. I've alluded to that several times, but this is a big change that's important to make note of when advising employees in the future. So again, 529 funds can be used for qualified education expenses within the apprenticeship umbrella, but the apprenticeship must be registered with the Department of Labor. And if you have any questions about what specific apprenticeships are eligible, you can find that at the website link that I have in this presentation. And any distribution taken after December 31st, 2018 may be used for an apprenticeship program expenses. So again, just bear in mind that is a possibility for your employees to take advantage of. Now from here, I'm going to turn this over to my friend and colleague, Tequila Barnes Hall. She's going to talk a little bit about the comprehensive nature of the 529, and she's going to finish up the presentation before we allow you guys to answer questions or ask questions rather. Again, just to do a little basic housekeeping. You can post your questions in the chat, or you can hold tight and ask them by voice after Tequila has finished her presentation. Thanks for your time and effort. Turning it over to you, Tequila.
Thanks so much, Skip. So we're going to transition a little bit and we're talking a little bit more about investments and then, of course, how you as an employer can begin offering this amazing plan as part of your existing benefit package. So we're going to talk about another feature of the plan. We're going to talk about the plan being comprehensive. So what this means is that your employees can select investment options that meet their objectives. So it's going to fit the time remaining until their beneficiary needs the money for college and match your employees' risk tolerance. So hopefully your employees know if they're a little bit conservative, maybe they're somewhere in the middle or moderate, and maybe they're a little bit more aggressive with their investment. So, of course, one of the things that we cannot do is we cannot advise your employees. We cannot tell them what options to choose. So it does have to be an individual decision, or we recommend they talk to a financial advisor or fee-only planner. So we're here to explain to them how the plan works and how to get started with their part of saving for educational expenses. So your employees can choose one or more of the following options that I'm about to share with you. All right. So here's some investment options. And when I start talking about investment options, I often refer to your retirement plans, how your employees are able to diversify their portfolio. They don't have to have all their eggs in one basket, so they can mix and match. And so here's some of the investment options that we make available to your employees. One of the first ones you see is a federally insured deposit account, and this is offered by State Employees Credit Union. So this particular option seeks to provide income plus protection of principal and earnings through the federal deposit insurance. Now, we talked about some of your employees' risk tolerance. And of course, this is one of the investments that we make available that is conservative. I also wanted to make sure that you understand the principal contributed and the interest earned are guaranteed by state employee credit union and insured by the National Credit Union Administration. This is the only guaranteed option. Now, you do see state employees credit union. You see that, here is offered by them. But one of the things I want your employees to know is that they can be a member or a non-member of state employees credit union. So that if they're not a member, it doesn't mean that they can't participate in this particular option. Now, also Vanguard. Vanguard's been around for a long time. They're one of the world's oldest investment organizations. So there are three Vanguard age-based investment options that your employees could choose from. So again, they want to think about their risk tolerance so they can find the track that fits their needs. So once they select their track, the beneficiary's age is determined or I should say the beneficiary's age determines the placement within whatever track that they choose. So the three tracks that they could choose from would be the aggressive track, the moderate track, or the conservative track. Now, I love visuals, so we often share with your employees a chart where they can see all the different types of the age-based investment options. So on the chart, you're going to see a few different categories. You're going to see the age of the beneficiary, and then you're going to see three columns that talk about the three different tracks that are available. So I'm just going to just give you an example. I love giving examples. So let's say that you have an employee that has a beneficiary that's between the age of 5 and 6. And if they decide that they want to choose the aggressive track, then of course you're going to see here, Vanguard 87.5% stock, 12.5% bond portfolio. Your employee may say, well, you know what, maybe I want to take a look at the moderate track. And here you see the Vanguard growth portfolio, 75% stock, 25% bond. An employee can decide, hey, I'm going to look at the conservative track. And then here they will see Vanguard conservative growth portfolio. So it's a 50-50 split, 50% stock, 50% bond. So this chart is going to be very helpful when your employee is trying to decide how they want to invest. And so on this screen, you just see from newborn all the way through 12, but it goes a little bit further than that. So you can also see we have information for employees who may have older beneficiaries, so 13 to 14 up to 19 or older. So again, we can take a look. I'll give you another example. So let's look at the age of the beneficiary if they're 13 to 14. So 13 to 14, let's see, they might be in 8th grade. Maybe they're in 9th grade. It gets kind of tricky with that age. But we see the aggressive track here. Vanguard moderate growth portfolio, 50-50 split. So 50% stock, 50% bond. If we were to look at the moderate track, Vanguard conservative growth portfolio, 25% stock, 75% bond. And then last but certainly not least, the conservative track here would be Vanguard income portfolio. So 75% bond and 25% short-term reserves. So lots of information for your employees to consider. So we're going to move right along. And I want to also let you know that your employees can look at some Vanguard individual investment options. So here, they're going to see several individual portfolios that they can choose from or select. So remember, your employees don't have to have all their eggs in one basket. They can mix and match. They can diversify that portfolio. And not only is it going to tell you what the individual portfolios are, but it's also going to give your employees a description of what it seeks to do. So we're looking at the very first one. So we see the Vanguard Aggressive Growth Portfolio. So this one seeks to provide capital appreciation. If we were to look at a few others, if we look at the Vanguard Growth Portfolio, it seeks to provide growth of capital and low to moderate income. So all of them have different things that they're seeking to do. And again, your employees need to be able to make an individual decision, or they can seek out a financial advisor or fee-only planner to help them make their decision. And then we have a few others on the screen. And for sake of time, I won't read through all of them, but I just want you to know there are many options. So there are I think about 9 or 10 of the individual portfolios that an employee could select from. Now, this is something that my colleagues and I often get questions about. Your employees, I'm sure they're going to have many questions. We want to make sure that we're answering all their questions. So one of the main questions we get is who can contribute? So anyone can contribute to the plan. We also, get questions about, annual contributions. So, of course, when you start looking at the maximum total allowable, you see, about $500,000. I mean, that sounds like a really big number, but we look at the most expensive colleges and universities in the country. So we're looking at least 4 years of an undergraduate program and maybe perhaps 2 years of a graduate program. And of course, this is something that is reviewed and revised on an annual basis. Now, employees may think, who is going to be in control of this particular plan? So the account owner, or who you might have heard Skip and I refer to as the participant, is always in control of the account. So, which means that the beneficiary or whoever they're saving for cannot take that money and do whatever they want to with it. The age of the beneficiary for contributions, of course, any age. And then my colleague did an amazing job talking about taxes and some of the advantages that your employees will have. So taxes on qualified withdrawals. There are no federal or North Carolina income taxes, as long as the money is used for qualified educational expenses like tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, other equipment. So anytime an employee has a question if something is a qualified withdrawal, we have an awesome team that mans our call center. They can certainly contact us via phone. They can also email us. There are various methods that they can use to be in contact with us. And then timing of withdrawals, whenever the beneficiary goes to college. Last but certainly not least, here you see income restrictions or AGI limits. So there are none. Now, the next program I want to explain to you that might be beneficial to some of your employees is called NC Able. And this is a 529 plan that's administered by our North Carolina Treasurer's Office. And so it's a little bit different from the 529 that Skip has explained to you. And we refer to NC Able as a 529A account. And this basically allows people with disabilities to save as well as their family members, maybe friends, and others to contribute. So the 529 plan that Skip mentioned to you at the very beginning of our time together is an account that's solely used to save for qualified educational expenses. So just a regular basic 529 account is used for qualified educational expenses, whereas a 529A account is not just for educational expenses. So, again, it allows people with disabilities to save for qualified disability expenses. So, an example could be additional medical costs not covered by Medicaid. So, we do have a link that you are welcome to share with your employees. It is www.nc.savewithable.com. So, again, www.nc.savewithable.com. And your employees are invited to go there to get more information about a 529A account. Now, participants can now roll assets from an NC 529 plan into an ABLE account to pay for qualified disability expenses. And then, of course, rollovers are limited to $15,000 per calendar year. So I guess we should say we're now into 2022, reduced by any other contributions made to that ABLE account during the year. Savings calculator, we have an amazing savings calculator. So this is where your employees can start doing their planning. So as we talk about them doing their planning, they can put in, the beneficiary that they're trying to save for. Maybe if they know what type of college they're trying to save for, they can put lots of great information here. And they can say, okay, this is how much money I want to save. So like Skip said before, of course, the minimum contribution is $25, and that is per contribution. So they can say, okay, I only want to save $25, and it will let them know, if I'm only saving $25, how much money I will have saved. Another way that your employee may decide to use this particular calculator is they can put all their information and allow the calculator to tell them how much money they will need to save if they're trying to pay all of their educational expenses and how much money they'll need to put aside to reach that goal. So just want to make sure that your employees know that we do have an online tool that they're able to take advantage of to help them decide what they want to do to put aside money for future educational costs. So the first part of the presentation was basically helping you to understand how the NC 529 plan works. and just in general. And then the next part of our conversation together is just helping you understand how to set up an NC 529 group plan for your employees. So we're going to transition just a little bit here. So here's some benefits for your employees. So as Skip mentioned early on, there are no enrollment fees or sales charges to open an account as an employee. They're low minimum contribution of just $25 per contribution. We have uh, multiple contribution methods for employees to choose from. Age-based portfolios are available, individual multi-fund investment options are available. And then again, the amazing tax advantages that we're making available. So of course, your employees are exempt for both federal and state taxes on what their account earns, as long as it's used for qualified educational expenses. And then, of course, savings can be used at eligible colleges, universities, virtually anywhere. So, any accredited colleges or universities in the country. So, although some of you might be employers in North Carolina, you may have employees who are outside the state, or maybe you are an employer outside of North Carolina has joined us and have North Carolina employees. But, so it can be used at any accredited college or university in the country. And so we want to make sure that you understand there's some flexibility in the plan. And then Skip also mentioned to you that it's not just for college expenditures, but also K-12 tuition, student loan repayment, apprenticeship programs. So lots of flexibility, no matter where your employee is on their educational journey. And then another benefit is that our parent organization, College Foundation, of course, we do offer many webinars and presentations that your employees can take advantage of, in addition to the things that we're offering for the NC 529 plan. So we have lots of college planning tools that are free of charge and available to help your employees. Now let's talk a little bit about the advantages for your company. So you're able to offer this benefit, if you choose to your employees through payroll deduction and no charge. So, of course, and Skip did talk about some of the advantages of how that helps you even as a recruitment method for getting people to work for your organization and also your existing employees. So no setup fees or administrative charges to you as an employer. Again, it's open to employers and employees in any state. And again, low maintenance and no governmental reporting for you. Now, definitely want to talk about this, and I may get Gabby, who has also joined us, to chime in if she has any additional information to add in when we get to this part. And also, as you have questions, please make sure you're putting those things in the chat. We will make sure that we address those as well. So, potential uses for the NC 529 plan. By employers, some of these things may be things that you're already doing or you're wanting to do, but you haven't started yet. So it could be management of tuition reimbursement programs, funds for continuing education, and or certification requirements. Maybe you have an employer scholarship program that you're offering to your employees, employer matching, bonus, or incentive program. So, of course, if this is anything that you're considering or something you're doing, but you want to use a different platform to make it available, you can contact our group plan enrollment specialist, to learn more. So at the very end of the presentation, we'll provide you with an email address where you can email questions that you have and communicate with our group plan enrollment specialist. So what's the next step? So the next step is to offer payroll deduction. So payroll deduction does require you to set up an NC 529 group plan. So you would have to complete an employer profile with us. And then you submit that to our group plan specialist, and they're going to assign you a 5-digit employer code. Now, the group plan specialist will contact you to determine how your company will transmit employee deductions. And then, of course, we have our NC 529 regional representatives that will contact you and discuss, the plan and how to share this new benefit with your employees. So I'm going to stop here. I think Gabby may have a few things that she wants to share.
Thank you so much, Tequila. So it's a lot of information that's coming at you in this setting, and we know it's a lot to absorb. So I just want to thank you all for being with us this morning and taking time out of your busy schedule. I think the main thing, which Tequila already pointed out, but I want to reiterate, is the fact that there's no cost to you as an employer to do this. You would simply complete this one-page form and send it to us, and we'll assign you your payroll code. And then from that point, we'll work with you, and you can tell us, how do you want to transmit your employee information? And how do you want to transmit the payroll deductions that you make from their payroll? Now, these deductions are post-tax, with post-tax dollars. So there's no IRS reporting requirements on the employer's part. But one of the other things that she also pointed out is that employers can use this program for more than just a benefit where employees can save for their own beneficiaries. Employers may want to take a different view of the program if you want to offer scholarships to your employees or their beneficiaries, or if you want to do matching, or if you have an existing program or benefit for your employees where you provide tuition reimbursement, for example. An employer could use this program to create a tuition reimbursement account with us. And that's separate from this payroll deduction program where you take money from the employees for their own personal accounts. The employer can create what we call an entity account, and you can use an entity account on behalf of the employer to manage your tuition reimbursement money. You would essentially be investing your tuition reimbursement funds in the 529 program as an employer, and then we can disperse your tuition reimbursements from the program. So that's something else that you could consider that you maybe hadn't thought of before, is where is your finance manager, where are your decision makers placing their tuition reimbursement dollars? Are they being invested? And see whether or not our program might have something competitive to help you administer that program. That's kind of everything I wanted to touch on. We only had one question in the chat, and I don't see anything else coming through.
Well, Gabby, I have a few others.
Back to you. Oh, okay.
All right. So no other questions right now? So, okay. Thank you, Gabby. So let me just kind of just follow up on a few things that Gabby touched on, and we have a few more things to share. So again, like Gabby said, if you have questions, continue to put those in the chat for us, and we will make sure that we bring her back to address some questions or maybe add some more things to some of the slides that we're talking about. So transfer methods for payroll deduction. So payroll providers may use any of the following methods to transmit deductions with a payroll roster. So it can be a mail check, EFT, or wire transfer. So again, our group plan specialist will work with you and talk with you to find what method works best for you. Now, of course, this is for you as far as, how to be in touch with our group plan specialist and to help you, once you get signed up or as you're enrolling into the plan. We also invite you to check our employer page at nc529.org. You can email our NC529 group plan specialist. His name is Jason Garland. And you can email nc529payroll@cfi.org. You may reach us by phone, 800-600-3453, and that's Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Friday, 8 to 5. Our fax number is here, as well as our mailing address. Now, here are your NC529 regional representatives. So there's 7 of us, and then we have 2 Spanish services managers that actually cover the state. And so you'll see that our NC529 regional representatives are listed by their telephone area code, so you can see who your representative may be. So again, I am Tequila Barnes Hall. You can see that I cover the 336 telephone area code. My good friend and colleague Skip Watts covers 828 East. We have Amy Denton. She covers 252. Devin McCarthy James shares I guess you say the 828 with Skip, and she covers 828 West. We have Tamika Ruffin, who covers the 704 or 980 area code. Brittany Privet covers 910. Soretta Broadway covers 919. And then Juana Hernandez Lira and Dr. Juanes Ramirez are our two Spanish services managers or representatives. Now, services or additional services, I should say, that are offered by your NC 529 representatives, these are available to you. Again, they are free for you as an employer. So we do often come out and participate in your business, in your different business ventures, like your benefit fairs, your wellness fairs. So I know I noticed a lot of my employers start having their wellness fairs around the springtime. But open enrollment events. So if you're, doing open enrollment and you would like for us to come out, we do that. Webinars, lunch and learns, in person or virtual, depending on what works for you. We do provide blogs and articles for your newsletters, things for you to post on your intranet. And then again, our college and career planning sessions, we make those available. And then don't forget our two Spanish services representatives. They're Spanish speaking and they are available to you as well upon request. All of these services are free. Now, for College Foundation of North Carolina, we have a lot of upcoming webinars. Unfortunately, I couldn't place all of them on the screen here, but you are able to even share additional things that we're offering. So one of the things we're excited about, we've been telling you how things work when your employees are about to enroll and start into the NC 529 savings plan, but we will also have webinars that talk about different things. So later in the month, I think the last part of the month, we're talking about 529 rules. So this is just a Q&A session for employees who have already saved, but now they want to pull the money out. We also have an event later on in the month where we're talking about Spring Into Saving. Again, this will be for individuals who have not yet started 529 or, know they want to start, but they have questions for us on the, I guess you say, the planning part. So different things, preparing for graduate school. So we work with individuals from, elementary age all the way through adult learners. So we have many services that will be helpful to your employees. Investing in your employees is easier than you think. We invite you to offer NC 529 group plan today. And just a few more things I just want to remind you of is that you can contact with us or you can connect with us via our social media. So we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as YouTube. Again, you can go online and get to us very quickly. You can go to cfnc.org/NC529. That gets you right to our 529 page. You can email us with any questions or comments that you have at nc529payroll@cfi.org. Our toll-free number is here, 800-600-3453. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to see if Skip sees any, or Skip or Gabby see any questions in the chat.
Gabby has handled the questions in the chat so far. I don't see any additional questions popping up right now. If anybody in attendance wants to unmute themselves and ask a question by voice, I would encourage you to do that right now. Gabby, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Oh, no. Thank you so much for attending once again. And, of course, sometimes if you're anything like me, you'll think about questions after the fact. And so please feel free to make a note of us. And you can contact any one of us with any follow-up questions. If you should take this information back to your managers and decision makers, then they may have questions that you will need to then forward to us. So feel free to follow up at any time.
I'd also like to point out that this session has been recorded, and we will provide all the attendees and registrants with a copy of that recording once it becomes available. So you guys can look back over this. If you have any additional questions that pop up and you don't feel comfortable reaching out to us initially, you can always go back through the presentation.
Okay, so just one more opportunity for any questions that you want to pose. And like Skip said, if you don't think of anything right now, that's fine. We have an amazing team that can answer any of your questions that you might have. We're just so excited that you're able to join us today. We hope to be able to work with you and your employees in the future. Please look out and check out your emails. We may send you another invitation to join us for, other 529 related presentations. Please feel free to share that information with your employees. And we just say thank you for joining and have the most amazing day.
Thank you.
Thank you.